At this time, I'd like to call the October 1st, boy, time goes fast, 2020 meeting of the Canal Recreation Park District Board of Directors to order. And I'd like to ask Avery if you'd please lead us in the flag salute this evening. The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Avery. Roll call, please. Aline?
Director Lang.
Here.
Director Nichols.
Yes.
Director Holt. Here. Director Huffer.
Yes.
Director Cuthbert.
Okay. We're going to begin with 4 directors present and have quorum. Starting with item 3 now, special presentations, our outdoor unit summer camp during COVID-19, a big challenge. All right. Go ahead, Avery and Summer.
Everybody hear me?
Now we can.
Sorry, counselor, I'm used to projecting. Good evening, everybody, Chair Ling, board members. My name is Avery Akers. I am the recreation coordinator for the Conejo Community Center. And as a side note, I'm also a recently certified archery instructor. So I just came from our archery class. So I am on it today. It's really busy. I'd also like to introduce Summer Barwick, my new partner in crime.
Hey, Summer.
And she is the new supervisor of the Conejo Community Center. Chose a great time to start, but she's swung along with us for all the challenges, and she's been a great positive influence and great with the staff, so we're happy to have her. So as I'm sure it has been for all of you, as it has been for the rest of the world, the past few months have definitely been full of changes, difficulties, and an ever-changing landscape. But just like parks make life better, our job is to make the lives of our community's member better. This year, we were faced with a daunting task this summer of running a safe and fun camp while adhering to the different and ever-changing guidelines. But if you've ever worked with kids, you know that you have to be able to constantly adapt, and camp counselors are the best at being adaptable. Our staff put in place new safety and cleaning procedures, new check-in procedures, including temperature checks and hand washing, as well as changing the way we run activities and multiple other modifications. Even with the numerous changes that we made, the one thing that we could not control was if the community would take advantage of our camp. That being said, I am pleased to report that this summer we were able to serve 334 different children over our 9-week sessions of camp. Not only that, but while camp was running, we did not have any cases of COVID that resulted from any of our 4 summer camps. You get a little scared watching the news report and seeing some of the camps come up, and you're always worried, but we were able to, through our different modifications, our staff members being diligent in what they were doing, as well as our parents and our kids, we were able to keep everybody safe and healthy. So I'd like to say that I'm extremely proud of our staff that worked so diligently on protecting the physical, mental, and emotional state of our community. And I would like to present you with a short slideshow from our camps over the summer, after which I'll be available for comments or questions.
The more we get together, the happier we'll be. 'Cause
for each of the board members, we gave you a little gift bag. If you read the the quote on the front, the gifts inside make a little bit more sense as far as the theme of it. But I know we're all here for the community, for their greater good, for helping everybody. And so honestly, within each one of you guys, within each one of us is the light that we constantly trying to shine on the community. So want to make sure you guys didn't blind yourselves. So we gave you some visors and sunglasses and some sun chips.
Well, thank you, Avery and Summer. And prior to the start of this meeting, I was mentioning to Summer, I remember her, one of my granddaughters had her at a little class over there at the Caneo Community Center. So it's great to see you again and to see your new position there. Okay, Director Huffer.
Not a question, but just a comment and compliments to you and all the staff from the centers that have made this happen. As you said in your introduction, the fact that there were so many changes, so many new things that you all had to deal with, and from the pictures and from the feedback that we've gotten from parents and kids, you guys have gone way above and beyond. So congratulations to everybody.
Thank you.
Yes, Director Cussworth.
I have tears in my eyes. That was really a lovely presentation. And I went down and saw the kids right after the camp started, and it was so well run and, very safe. It was just very lovely. And one thing that really touched me was when I was leaving, I saw a group of parents all standing apart from each other talking. And I thought, that probably helped them a lot, just to be able to talk. And I'm a first grade teacher, and so right now my entire class are little squares on a screen. And I was hiking the other day, and I said to my friend that I was hiking with, I think those kids there are first graders. And when I stopped them and I said, hey, what grade are you? And they're there with their moms. And they were like, first grade. And I said, I thought so. I'm so glad to see real life first graders. So it's nice when you have something like this. And you are continuing camps, aren't you? Don't they have after school camps and before school camps?
We're continuing our quarantine program.
Yeah.
So for us, we're doing Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays in the afternoon for kids to have a chance to do some stuff, be with some other people, and continue having fun in a safe environment, and obviously giving parents
Yeah,
a
it
much
gives the
needed break
parents
as
a
well.
break, which is nice too. This has been hard on parents. But anyway, thank you. Thank you for all of your hard work. I'm so glad that our parks are doing something like that, such a necessary thing for our community.
Thank you, Director Cussworth. Yes, Director Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Reminded me of when I was out there visiting earlier this summer and just wanting to see, well, okay, how is this going to look? What's going to happen? It was a great thing. Kids are clueless. It's just camp, Camp is camp. And it's not like, oh, this is different, or I wonder how we're going to do it this year. It's camp. And you guys just made it, just like a regular event, nothing unusual about it. And even the staff, we're just kind of making it happen. So thank you, because I want to make sure that the kids, particularly, you have such a large population of the younger kids, that to them it's just a chance to be a kid. Yeah, I appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Nichols. Director Holt, you have any comments?
Not really. I just think it's great that it's happening. Are you all filled up?
We have finished our summer camp, so we're not filled up anymore.
Okay, but are you doing it now too?
We're currently not doing it now.
Okay.
our- No, we August 14th, I believe, was the last day of our actual summer camps.
Thank you, Director Holt.
Did well.
Yes, at a time like this, when all the different challenges and requirements and, having to have the kids connect, yet they still can't get too close and so forth, that's really a challenge. And as some of the other directors mentioned, it takes extra work and extra effort. And we thank you, staff, and Rochelle, your staff, and how You had to be innovative and come up with these different programs. It's really great. So thanks again, and continue good luck with all the other programs that we have in the hopper. Okay, thank you.
Always. Thank you.
All right.
It's
Thank
great to
you.
see you guys get to.
We're moving on to item 4, items from the public. Mark, do we have any? All right, we're going on to item 5, approval of the agenda.
I move approval of the agenda.
Thank you, Director Holt, and Director Cutsworth as a second. Any, oh, wait a second. No, I'm right. Any comments, changes, or modifications to the agenda? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Opposed, abstentions, hearing none, the motion passes. I was getting ahead of myself now. Item 6, consent calendar A and B. A, approval of the minutes of September 17th, which was a regular, quote unquote, regular board meeting. And approval of the warrants and the accounts payable as indicated in the staff report and payroll. I do have a minor change addition to the minutes. And I've spoken with Elaine, and she's ready to make the change, adding the process of passing on the gavel to Vice Chair Nichols when I was involved. So first of all, thank you to Director Nichols for doing that. And so with that minor change, I'd entertain a motion for our consent calendar, A and B. Thank you, Director Cutsworth. Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
Thank you, Director Nichols. Are there any other changes, additions? If not, oh, I'm sorry.
Not a change, just a brief comment. I was going to ask Melissa about one of the items in the payment register, but we got our hats. I'm not going to ask the question. So
You lucked out, Melissa. Okay, I'm sorry, Director Huffer, I hadn't seen your hand. Okay, with that comment, all in favor of the consent calendar A and B, say aye.
Hi.
Opposed, abstentions, hearing none, that motion passes. We're going on to item 7, deferred matters. We have none this evening. Item 8, items for discussion are more typical these days. CRPD update regarding COVID-19. Mr. General Manager.
Yes, thank you, Chair Lang and members of the board. The good news, 2 pieces of good news really, is that playgrounds have been authorized to reopen, and I believe that as of tomorrow, we'll have all the signage that's required to be at the playground. You won't be able to see it at home, but we do have a sign that I'm going to pass around. Jody's probably into the 3,000 signs made or something since the beginning of COVID. But yet here is another sign that we will be putting out and placing near the playgrounds. And I know that there's probably not a whole lot of listeners on the phone, so I'm talking really to this room, but just so you know, board, there are a lot of extra rules that are promulgated by the state when it comes to reopening the playground, many of which will require the public to adhere to or not, as the case may be. We will not have and do not have staff adequate to ensure that all of the different rules that are associated with reusing the playgrounds will be adhered to, so that what we really require is that social sort of compact between each other as citizens for people to follow. So what you would see on the playground that you wouldn't normally see is it does say that anyone older than 2 needs to be wearing a mask, including the caregiver. The caregiver has to keep their child that's playing in sight, and that you have to stay with your household and not get within 6 feet of people from other households. And there is a kind of a capacity limitation that is actually got to be kind of adjusted per playground, but depending on how it is, so that there's less people on there. So when the capacity is reached, there should be a waiting line area outside the playground so that households can stand on their like dot, like you're in a supermarket waiting to have their turn on the playground. So needless to say, I have low expectations about whether the actual public will use it that way. That doesn't mean we won't have other people from the public calling us and telling us all about the people that aren't following the rules. So that will be like a whole series of extra calls and concerns and complaints that we will be getting. And it's similar to what we've been getting with some of our other facilities as they have been opening. So we're happy that they're opening. We're excited the community can use them again. And we just hope folks are able to understand that there's some rules in place, but basically try to maintain some separation. But I know with kids that can be tricky. So with that, that's on playgrounds. That's great news. Next week, we being Ventura County, should be moving from purple to red because, and I think they said it's the 5th or 6th. So it's like Tuesday, so the 6th. So that means there's a little bit of extra openings for the private sector, more so than us. This kind of reminds me at the end of, I think it was the end of, I don't know, May, after the first kind of wave, then we kind of reopened some things and then it quickly shut back down. But there's not a whole lot of extra things we'll be allowed to do in this tier, but whatever those are, we will try to do that and expand our openings to the full extent of our abilities. So that's it for COVID update.
Very good. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and continue to pass the playground rules around. You can have a chance to take a look at it. And I think we're all, I know, being a grandpa with 3 grandchildren with me right now, they're really going to be pleased about this. Okay. Any questions for General Manager? Yes, Director Cutsworth.
I'm just curious, is this for the entire state or just for Ventura County?
That's statewide. Those are state level guidance, not the county's guidance.
And do you know what made them change the rule? No, just haven't?
Just came out,
It just showed up.
yeah, no like pre-warning or anything. We just,
All right.
just was new thing they posted on their website,
Great.
Department of Public Health.
All right, Director Huffer.
I'm assuming that in the red zone or whatever they're calling it, that we're still not allowed to open the centers. At what level will we finally be able to open the centers for at least limited programming?
So larger gatherings of people that are like what I would call general public gathering, where you're just getting together and you're not, there for a specific purpose or class or program, I think might not be even contemplated all the way till it goes red, yellow, orange, yellow. And I'm not sure that even in yellow it's allowed. Like whatever is after yellow, they haven't actually said green, but it's kind of like there is a sense that general gathering and mixing is not going to happen until they feel like there's a vaccine or some herd immunity or something. I'm not sure. It is not clear. You can't look at any document to find out what is going to be allowed in the next tier specifically. And I think that's probably intentional on their part because they want to see how things are going. So what's good is that we can use the centers for a lot of programming. So what's the nature of the center is it's changing from the general public drop-in, open gym and just kind of a drop-in hangout place to you're going to have to be signed up and registered for one of the, allowable COVID activities. So it's just a different way that we'll be using the building. So they are actually being used almost every day right now between the quarantine programming and Rochelle can kind of get into some of the other, but yeah. Fitness classes. The fitness is outside, right? Camps and clubs. So,
And then just a quick question. I'm assuming with all the other requirements that may or may not be adhered to, that we would be expecting parents to bring along their own hand sanitizer. We're not going to put out hand sanitizer stations at the parks or with the playgrounds.
correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Very real quick, has the newspaper, local newspapers been notified about this?
We haven't notified them, but
Is that something we want to do? Or-
There was something written.
yeah, they may have caught it just because it's a big change for the whole state. I mean, all at once, I don't know.
I think
There
this,
was an article.
Okay,
I think there was an article in the Star.
okay.
Yeah, there was.
Okay, very good. We're going on to item 9, new items, 9A, annual update to Canadian Recreation Park District Water Conservation Plan. Mr. Hare.
All right, thanks, Chair Lang, members of the board. This is about our 4th or 5th year presenting this to you, so we have some changes from previous years and some additions, just making this plan a little bit better, and we'll give you some updates on the statistics also. Thanks to Chair Lang, I think a few meetings ago, about a month ago, he had some interesting data that Jim and I were scouring for. So like if you look at the beginning of the plan, in the introduction, we've always said it's like kind of like we're fact. Hey, it's getting hotter and drier, and water shortages and drought conditions persist over time. We found some data, again, similar to what Chair Lang had shown us earlier, that since 1895, this is on page 31 of your packet, a little graph there. Since 1895, California has been warmer about a rate of 2.1 degrees Fahrenheit per century, but it keeps on speeding up. Since 1960, it's 4.8 degrees per century. So it is getting hotter here, and as we all experienced today, and also, and yesterday. And some more information too that we found. Some researchers were looking at the months, the September, October, November months that since 1979, the temperatures have been going up by a degree Celsius, and precipitation has been going down by 30% since that time. So that's pretty critical. So obviously you put those two things together, it's getting warmer and it's raining less. So that means water conservation is a pretty important element of contemporary California life. So whether it's California, I mean, California is doing a good job, but I think us as the Canary Recreation Park District, so this is what we do for a living is, so on my side, we grow grass and we try to keep plants alive and do wonderful things for recreation sides folks that go out there and use the facilities. So this is a very important thing that we have to do. And I think with Canary Recreation Park District, we have to be very committed to providing water conservation. Even back in April 2015, the governor gave us an executive order talking about the drought, that it's a real, et cetera. He lifted it in 2017, but part of when he lifted the drought executive order, he did say, let's move forward and have something called making water conservation a California way of life. So they're trying to move into like a more long-term sustainable efforts with water conservation. For lack of words, there's no turning back. It's not like, oh, the drought's over and let's go back, let's put grass back in, let's do all these. No, it's going to continue. I know I've had many encounters with neighbors and friends and patrons. Oh, I've lived here for 50, 60 years. We've gone through so many droughts. It's no big deal. It is a big deal. That's why we keep on going through these droughts. So we've got to build for the future, and also the demand has gone up significantly. There's so many more people in Southern California, or in California also in general. So there's much more demand on our water supply. So we really have to make a sustained effort as a state and as a local park district. So the last legislation they brought, they haven't had anything new. The last one was in May 2018. And one of the more important things, but I hope they continue with it, that COVID hasn't delayed it any. they're supposed to come out with in 2022. Yeah, just in 2022, they're supposed to come out with some molecular guidelines and restrictions upon water suppliers, and saying this is how much water you can have, like almost like a water budget. And then the water suppliers, it's supposed to be more like a trickle down. And then the water suppliers will go to whether you're a resident and saying, oh, it's two of us live on this much acreage and here's your water budget for the month, or businesses or folks or people like us in the special districts, here's your water budget. So hopefully they're going to continue with that and come up with that and come up with some select word science-based data on what everyone's water budget should be. So looking forward to that. And we've done our own math, and that's what we'll get into, like what our water target is, 503 units per acre, kind of using their math. Again, I'd like to see the official math when it comes out. But with all that said, we do have a community here that demands playable turf. We've got lots of soccer organizations, sports organizations, lacrosse, they all baseball, volleyball camps, kids rolling around, just community members who want healthy quality turf. And we want it also too. It's a difficult process. We have over 1,100 acres of parkland. We had 250 acres of turf. We reduced it 78 by 70 acres between 2015 and 2017. We've got 70 miles of irrigation lines and over 10,000 irrigation heads. So again, it's this big balance between trying to give them the healthy quality turf that they can use a lot, and us maintaining that and providing it, and also having water conservation. So that's kind of like where we're going. And I think one of the good things that the board did back in 2008 when we first started strategic planning. So the board did a really good job of, at first it was kind of more of a broad in 2008, like, hey, let's be good. It was kind of like a recycling energy conservation practices. And then over the years, in 2019, when this board got together and had our retreat, we got a lot more focus, which was kind of neat, which I really enjoyed. To say, hey, here's more specific on what we should be doing to conserve energy and conserve water. So I really appreciate the board's leadership on that. And so, and part of that came from the board. Since we made this concentrated effort, we have spent over $4.7 million on the turf conversions and various capital projects, such as like converting to reclaimed water, over the last 5 years. But it's definitely necessary that for these one-time expenditures to keep on moving forward for the water conservation. And then we also have ongoing costs that we've committed to, about $300,000 a year for ongoing drought response projects to modify some irrigation or put some additional planting in. So, but here's just some kind of like, again, more overall picture numbers. It's just kind of interesting. What I always like doing this is, so when we first started tracking water costs when I got here, we spent $827,000 on water. And this past fiscal year, we spent $1.4 million on water. And so we went up 74%. So that just tells you, oh, right, we use 74% more water, right? No. In 2007-8, we used 328,000 units of water. And this past year, we used 228,000 units of past water. So we actually went down by 30%. Again, costs went up about 75%, and our usage went down about 30%. So if you look at the cost of unit per unit, we were paying $2.51 per unit, and now we're paying $6.31 per unit. So the costs have gone up 150%. So we're doing a great job. And the most important thing to me is actually the resource, the water. We've gone down again by 30%, but our costs have gone up by 75%. So again, that's kind of the big picture stuff. I'll just go over some very short highlights here for the meat of the water conservation plan. One of the guidelines that we have is using water efficiently at agency facilities. This is something that we do all the time. We're always trying to get on top of leaks. We have our iCentral control system, which is our computer-based irrigation controllers. That's 100% of our parks are on that, and all the 10,000 irrigation heads are part of that system. We actually, kind of good and bad in that this year, because of COVID, we were allowed to extend our field refurbishment times, and the fields have never looked better, but because nobody's using them. But at the same time, we did use a little bit more water because of that, because we were actually, instead of having 6 to 8 weeks, we're taking like 8 to 10 weeks, sometimes even 12 weeks for the field refurbishments, and the fields look, I've had so many great comments from patrons, how great they look. And actually, we are permitting some of the fields now. It's not our regular permitting, but we do have some activity going out there now, and everyone loves it. One of the other highlights we have, we're still continuing. I talked about the $300,000 a year using the drought-tolerant plants in our parks. Again, at the beginning, we went and kind of just went through, took off the 70 acres of turf, and we've actually been going back every year and doing projects, which is part of my monthly water report I give you. When we took out the turf, we worked with the recreation staff and sometimes, with patrons also about what's non-essential to the park. Like where we believe, that's where we took out the turf, where turf was not it's not an amenity that requires turf to be an essential part of the park's enjoyment for being there. So, around the edges or just again, non-essential areas. So that's where we took out the turf. But we've been going back and doing a lot of great improvements, and have gotten a lot of great comments from patrons about how happy they are with what we've been doing there. You gotta take that, or I'm in the middle.
Time's up, Tom.
Time's up. Okay, I better hurry. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, John. And then, of course, we try our best to inform and educate the public on what we're doing and why we're doing it. And for the most part, they're pretty good. So just going to give you just one. Well, so how did we do this last particular year? Again, our target's 503 units per acre. This past year, we used 390 units, which is 22% below our target. And then also what I like to take a look at is if we did, I always like what's called unmitigated. If we did nothing, if we were at our 2007-8 level, we kept on staying at that level, where would we be, and like how much trouble we would be in. So if we had stayed at that level, we would have used an additional 741,000 units over the past 12 years or so, and which equates to about 554 million gallons of water. And we would have spent an additional $4.172 million. So it's a good thing we've been cutting back on our water. And so that's if no improvements have been made. And then even continuing out in the future, I think it would have been an average of about 29 million gallons of water per year and an extra $250,000 of expenditures if, again, we've done nothing. So we've done a really good job of cutting back and continuously making these water conservation efforts. I applaud the board for leading the charge on this and being kind of the face of it, like being behind of what we're doing and supporting us through what we're doing. Because again, going back to the original comment, this is making water conservation a California way of life is very important, and we can't step backwards. We can't, because it's going to happen. We're going to get, we get it all the time. Well, why can't you just give me grass just here? It'll be so cool. It'll be so great. What's going to hurt? And because then it'll be this other part and this other part. It'll keep on going, and we'll lose any sort of advantages that we had. And again, I thank the board for backing us with our efforts, and I think it's really fruitful over the past 12 years. With that, I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hare. And a couple side notes on what you said about the board. And a few of you may remember that Director Joe Gibson really led the charge.
Oh, he banged on even without a gavel, he was banging on the dial.
But his second love, besides the park district, was water districts. He's very involved in all the water associations here in Ventura County. So, but we could talk about it a lot, but if staff, you Administrator Mr. Hare, didn't put all these things in action, and we wouldn't have done and accomplished what we have. So thank you and your staff and Mr. General Manager and your efforts of bringing it all to fruition. Okay, any comments? Director Huffer.
Well, you stole part of my thunder. I was recognized Director Gibson as That's all right. That's all right.
Sorry
I
about
thought
that.
You were going to thank me. No?
No, you made the comment that even if things, we get lots of rain and things look better, that we're not planning on replacing any of the turf that we've taken out, but also the fact that there are no plans in this in removing additional turf.
Correct.
Basically where we are, there's still significant funds to be expended for drought tolerant plantings and things like that, and to replace the mulches as it begins to wear out. That we're not taking any additional turf
No.
out at this point.
Correct.
My recollection is 2, maybe 3 years ago, there were some meetings with city staff and looking at the feasibility of any groundwater sources in our community. Is that sort of gone by the wayside, or?
No, we actually had, during COVID, I've probably had 4 different Zoom meetings with city staff and other, city staff and their consultant led the meetings, and then other stakeholders such as ourselves, the school district, and some other folks who are on the water suppliers were on the calls, just kind of letting us know where they are with it. They're moving forward. It's very slow process. And, a lot of times too, it's, I'm 100% honest with you, they're saying stuff is just like, way over my head. And because they're talking about these different levels and the way they can achieve, the science behind it. And I was like, okay, just tell me what you're going to do at Pepper Tree, just tell me how much it's going to cost and what we need to do to get this rolling. And they just seem, they're still, I still believe they're a few years away, but it's been, like I said, 4 meetings in the past 6 months, and they have to like write this plan on the feasibility of it. And it still seems like something that is possible in the near future. And I say near 5 to 10 years, that something might happen with that. But I think a lot of work still has to be done.
And I actually have a little info because I do get to be in those department head meetings every Tuesday at the city. The city itself is moving forward with a groundwater plan that involves the golf course and the existing ponds there. And I want to say it's like $10 or $13 million project.
$10 million.
Yeah. So this stuff is not cheap. And all they're doing is pulling groundwater out to blend it with potable water because the groundwater isn't usable by itself. You got to kind of cut it with the good stuff. So it will be blended in those lakes that are at the golf course, which will then be used for irrigation. But they got to spend, I want to say 13 million or something is what I heard. So that payback on that is a lot of years out. But like Tom said, it's kind of like the resource, because if they do that, then we've developed our own groundwater usability for the future. So that means there's more water for everyone else to share. But like that's the kind of order of magnitude project that we'd probably be looking at to develop groundwater in the Newbury Park area. So,
and I think just to add on to one of the things that they need to look at, and it's, I don't care what's the term, whether it would be, we all come together and form some sort of water district.
we'll wheel the water.
Yeah, there's some, because I think the main, and that will come, like the stakeholders would get together and form some sort of JPA to figure out what's going on, because one of the issues that they have, because it is so costly, the demand is far less than the supply. That's the return, again, the return on investment, that what we can pull out of a particular well. And if you're just using it locally at Pepper Tree and Orchard, it doesn't make sense, because we don't use, we use a lot of water, but not as much, and then again, making up a $7 million project to pull out the water and to pay for 10% of our water use at Pepper Tree and Orchard. So the return on investment becomes like 70 years. So we need to come almost collaboratively and collectively together to figure out how to use that water in more than just Orchard and Pepper Tree and Newbury Park High School, and maybe use like at the residential level also.
Okay. And just to echo Director Lang's comments, the work that you and your staff have done over these last 10 plus years and the annual updates that you give us and the monthly updates that you send out to us are all really helpful. And part of our overall strategy of managing all of our resources, and to sort of, even though it's not water related, somewhere along the line, I think it's been a little while since we had a comprehensive update on the electrical usage in the district. And it'd be interesting to hear that somewhere along the way.
Yeah, I do that every 6 months. I do that, yeah, because that's for like when it's more static. I mean, there's no projects, so I just provide those numbers in December and June.
So the electricity is static.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh. Ooh.
Yeah. So but because the water, because we're doing projects and different things, so that changes not a lot from month to month, but it will change from a month to month basis. But the electricity is stable. They're just numbers, so that's why I do it every 6 months.
Director Cussworth.
Director Huffer and I had a lot of the same questions, but, so I won't go over those. Yeah. But I did want to comment on the groundwater a little bit because I've been reading a lot about groundwater lately. It's been a huge interest of mine. And one thing that you have to take into consideration with groundwater is it is not an unlimited supply. So, it's interesting that here in Thousand Oaks, the only water that we had before 1962 was all groundwater. And they, drilled for it and made wells, and the wells were going down so far after World War II, it was becoming an issue, which is why we connected to the California Water Project. So I was reading about how the city was thinking of doing it for golf courses and such. But again, as you were saying, it's very expensive for them. I don't know how they were doing it before, because we had about 3,000 people here and everybody was using the groundwater. That's all they had. But they would have to figure that out. But it is a viable source if we can't, but we would have to think, if we can't get our water from Northern California, we're pretty much, there's no more community here, because our groundwater would not support everything. So, but it is interesting. And I was reading about that the city is now considering it, after so many years of not using our groundwater, of now perhaps using it again. And so my question was, which you answered, is how, I just read about the golf course, but they're saying that maybe they would be bringing it into our parks also. So the other thing with the landscaping, you had told me before that no more turf is going to be taken out. And I wanted to mention, one line in here was saying people are used to parks that are green and lush. And I just wanted to say, our parks can be very lush without necessarily having grass. And I've seen beautiful landscaping that your peoples have do. Again, I've told you so many times of how much I like Banyan Park. I would rather be in Banyan Park, which is not near me, than just sitting on a lawn. I mean, there are uses for lawns, but if you're looking for beauty, a lot of the landscaping, the rock work that you've done, the benches, and then those bring the birds, the butterflies, the bees. So I think in the long run, we can be better off. True, when you have a beautiful grass and all of a sudden you're looking at brown mulch, people are like, what have you done? But with the savings, hopefully, though you're not really saving money on water, but thank goodness you're saving water, you're saving money considering that you've taken it out, that can be used to plant trees and things. And actually, when I was coming over here, I was only late because I left my notebook at home. I was here probably really early, and I got here and said, oh. So anyway, I had to go back and get it. But when I was driving down Moore Park Road, I can remember when they first put in those trees, lots of letters to the editor, because it was a drought time, saying, why are you planting? It's a drought. You should just be putting it in as concrete. And I was driving down, and the trees are beautiful, and the drought tolerant landscape that they have in those meridians is beautiful. And so you're really on the right path. I think we just have to keep on it by going back to those parks now and putting in that beautiful landscape with plants that are going to thrive, that are going to encourage people to do that in their backyards, to bring the insects and the birds into our community. It's really in the long run a good plan, because lawns won't bring in that much. And it was, like you said, areas that don't need to be used for kicking balls and doing a lot of those other things. And family picnics, we have lots of grass in our parks. So I really applaud you for your vision.
Appreciate it.
And to continue on. Because I think when people start seeing their park with just being the mulch and a few rocks being transformed with a lot of the trees and the bushes and the drought tolerant landscaping, eventually everybody will say, just like they did the meridians of Moore Park Road, oh yeah, actually that was a good idea. So, and then, you know, we are saving water because we all like to live here. Also, I wanted to ask, and everybody probably knows this, but I'm not into irrigation. So you mentioned a lot of these master flow valves. How are these master flow valves? What are they and how are they saving us water?
So what, putting those in, just think of like you have one at your house. So the main feed to your house,
Oh, okay.
right? So what happens if we get a mainline breaker or on a pre-master flow valves, if we got a mainline break, we would have to drain the whole system and to shut off the water we'd lose a ton of water in order to fix that. So by having a master flow valve, we're able to shut off the water to the entire park, or sometimes we have submasters that, so it just between the irrigation line between you and I, we can shut off so we can make that repair. We don't have to worry about the other mile of irrigation that we have in the park. We don't have to drain all of that.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, I guess I knew what they were, and I guess I didn't understand that you already had those since they have them in houses, so.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
so that's
actually,
great.
we have them in all of our larger parks. We were putting them in over, the past 10 years or so. Sometimes in our smaller parks, the larger parks are easier because it's more like a sports field, because it's more like it's rows or it's easier. The smaller parks, they'll have some, and I'm exaggerating, but the crossing over and the guys just say, I need like 4 master flow valves in order to figure this particular system out, because there's so many different things going on. And we say it's not even worth it because it's a small park and it's okay to drain it.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. And, I think we all appreciate the vision of the board before and your hard work, so.
Appreciate it.
Great.
Thank you, Director Cuthbert. Director Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Hare, for the presentation and the continued monitoring of this resource for us. And I think we do need a constant reminder that water for us is a very rare commodity here in Southern California, especially in the Conejo Valley. It takes a lot to get here. So I think of that rate of $2.51.9 per unit. I couldn't go up to Lake Oroville and pick up a truck full of water and bring it back for that price for my own home. I mean, it's a bargain at that price. It's the commodity itself that's so rare. And I was looking at this price that we're paying. It's almost $1.5 million, which is about 7% of our district budget as a total. And I can only imagine where that would be if we hadn't done what has been done. And I don't know what the percentage was back in the day. But it's not going to get any less than that. It's only going to go up. So we just need to continue to do that. So thank you for that. I did have a question. And this is just your surmising at this point. I don't know that you've got this calculated. But as you continue to plant these non-turf areas with more drought-tolerant landscaping, do you have any idea what the water usage would be, that increased amount might be from that, which would obviously be less than what it would have been for turf, but there's going to be some minimal amount that would be there. Have you calculated what you think that might be?
Honestly, we have not. I mean, just as my top of my head opinion, I'd say maybe it's an additional 5% from zero. You're going from the turf, and that's just a wild ass guess about it, just because it's drip irrigation or we do for trees, and if you've seen the little underground bubblers that we do with that, rather than surface watering the trees, we go about 3 feet down to water the roots, not just the bark. So it's fairly minimal compared to if it was turf.
Okay. Yeah, so like as Director Cusworth was talking about the parks where it looks so nice, you can accomplish that beauty for a far less price than just having a nice grassy knoll out there.
Yes.
Okay. And then more on a technical question, I see that you made reference to having a irrigation technician.
Yes.
And I noticed that you had the responsibilities noted later in the report. But is that like require some certification, or is that just designating, somebody says, hey, you're going to be the person?
No, we actually specifically, that's a new position in 2015. It's different than any other position that we had. You have to be, it's a certified water auditor, I believe is the term for it. Because there's a whole bunch of classwork that needs to go into. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I've done it with them, so it's actually kind of fun. They put out cups of water, and you've got little catching cups through a station. So like say this room is a station, and you catch all the cups, and then you see how much water has put in a cup over a period of time, and that way you can tell the efficiency of that particular station and whatever adjustments that you need to make. So he does go to classes and gets continuing education specifically for irrigation. He stays on top of, in addition to the formal classes, he does a lot of the informal classes. He seeks a lot of grants and rebates just for even small buying irrigation heads. He'll find the most efficient ones, we'll install those, and then he'll find a rebate from the state or from the county for that. And then he's also tasked. So, and it's kind of interesting. It's kind of like we've made him, instead of, before it was more of a decentralized, each crew was responsible for, which they still are, they're still responsible for their particular part. But now we have a staff member who kind of oversees and helps educate them, because that's all he does. So he can go out with the crew and say, hey, Doug, this is what you need to do. This is what I found here, and educate. Because you're worried about the irrigation, but also you're worried about the grass and the trees and the trash and the playground and the fencing. You're worried about a whole bunch of stuff, and your staff, you got to do all these other different things. And this guy, he's just, let me help you out here and educate you on what you should be doing on your particular part.
And is there like some type of a monitoring system where he has the data to use that with as well, because of all the smart systems that are now available?
So our iCentral system sends reports every single reports or alerts every single night on what happened throughout the system, and he can sit at his computer, as do the other supervisors, and you can make adjustments sitting from home. They can make adjustments to a particular part or a particular station. So he does that, but then he'll see, like when he comes to the work in the morning, he sees, oh, hey, it looks like there's a problem at Thousand Oaks Center. Let me go over and check it out. Or he'll call the ground worker 2 over there and says, hey, can you check out over by the volleyball court? There's a report of continuous water running. So they'll go out and change that.
Fascinating. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Director Holt, any questions or comments? All right. I also had a comment or question about the addition of staff. And so do I understand that position, if we could afford it, it'd be similar to the type of technician we currently have?
Yes, we probably have a couple of them. We right now the gentleman is out of Oak Service Yard, but we probably would put another one on the other side of town and put one at Orchard, so that way they can concentrate on their particular sides of town.
And
we have one current position, and if funding fell from the sky that we could afford it, we would probably hire an technician. We're pretty big believers on more field staff. The more field staff we have, is the more efficient and effective we become farms.
the other question indicates that he puts on little educational sessions. Are those open to other staff members or board members to sit in?
I don't see why not. If you want to show up at 6:30 in the morning at
Not 6:30.
Yeah, generally the guys do it I mean, we've suspended during COVID because we're not gathering. But in general, he'll put on some education sessions for the groups that are there. We might do it in the field for a particular crew. But we also, and then it's the what is it going to call it? Teach the teacher. We also have, we try to get our new employees well versed in, for lack of word, normal routine things, how to rebuild a valve, and which everyone knows, but 99% of the guys know, but the new guys need to know it. And then they'll teach a class on it, and not necessarily to educate everybody. They'll teach a class because sometimes when you teach the class, you have to start to know it better if you're teaching the class rather than listening to the class.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, well, put it down in the future when you start meeting again,
Sure.
just to let me know, because maybe it's my engineering background, but the whole concept of having a technician, involved, previously we didn't even think about it, but the advantages of having a technician and
Sure.
possibly a second one.
You bring the donuts, and the guys will be happy to have you.
All right, Elaine, remind me, donuts. Okay, then one last comment on page 46, that table of the actual water usage and so forth. And I took the time, the average rain in these 13 years is 9.90 inches. And I can remember while growing up here in Southern California, my parents always said, we had a 12-inch average. And obviously per this, my calculations for this table, it doesn't reach that number yet.
Yeah, and sometimes too, which, I can't get into too many details with this report, but if you get 4 inches in one day, that's just the same as getting 1 inch in one day.
Mhm.
Because it dissipates and we can't use that much water.
Right.
I'd rather get an inch every 2 weeks.
Well, you got to talk to the right guy.
I know. So we need to do a lot more of that, attending more on Sundays and praying for better rain.
Okay, it was talked earlier by Director Cutsworth and yourself about, groundwater and so forth. And if I recall correctly, we have at least 2 wells, one at McCrae Ranch and one over Canal Creek North
Yeah, we have.
that are capped.
Correct, those are inactive. We also have a few other locations that were identified through the groundwater, through the consultant and through some of our, so it's North, McCrae, Pepper Tree, and Orchard. I think were the 4 most likely wells that we could restart, reinvigorate, and use. Initial studies have showed the water on the Newberry Park side is more palatable, potable, whatever you want to say, for mixing. That it's a better side over there. It's a little bit more shallow and easier to use.
Yeah.
So I believe if we do something with groundwater, it will be either at Pepper Tree or at Orchard in the near future. I mean, North and McCrae might happen, but I think that'd be a little bit further down the road.
Yeah, Newbury Park has a higher water table.
Yes.
And where I live, North Teal, near Cal Lutheran, we have an underground stream. And a neighbor, and this goes back when we first moved in the neighborhood in 65, they couldn't put their pool down into the ground because the water kept raising the concrete for the pool. So it's about 4 feet above ground. But so there is water up there in North Thousand Oaks, and I don't know if it's in the future if there's ever a requirement, but for our neighborhood park, it's not too far from
Spring Meadow.
Spring Meadow. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was drawing a blank. So anyway, just something off the top of my head. And then one last item about this year, the actual units per acre is down to 390 from the previous, drought years and so forth. And based on the amount of water in the last few years, I think that's pretty good, reaching that number. Okay. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Yes, Director Humphrey.
Just one question, quick question I forgot to ask, without digging out the plans myself, about how many irrigated acres are we planning on at Canal Creek Southwest?
It's 14 total. acres. I believe, shoot, I want to say, I'll give you the answer right. I think it's like 9 acres. Yeah, not 9 of the 14. And I might be, I'll text Andrew. He'll know
All
off
right.
the top of his
I
head,
mean,
but
it'll have a minor impact on overall water usage, but there will be a little bit, so.
yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Huffer. Any other comments or questions? We do need a motion on approval of the annual water report. Director Huffer.
I'll move approval of staff recommendation to approve the annual update report on the district's water conservation plan.
Thank you. And a second.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Director Nichols. Any further comments or questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none. That motion will pass. We're going on to item 9B, award bid for Glenwood Neighborhood Park and Wildwood Neighborhood Park playground improvement projects at Pepper Tree Playfield Playground and Fitness Equipment Improvement Project in the amount of $1,093,260 base bid plus contingency of $89,920, total $1,183,180. Okay,
That was my
that's
report. Thanks, George.
Mr. Hare.
Andrew, 4 acres. Andrew's, yeah, 4 acres. Yeah, I just got to I thought it was like 9 and 5. It's, it was probably the opposite way. It's, 5 acres or 4 or 5 acres of turf and 9 of drought tolerant land with open space. Okay, thanks, Shirley, members of the board. Yes, as Chair Lang said, we've got 3 great projects coming up. Playgrounds at Glenwood, Wildwood, and Pepper Tree Playfield. And in addition at Pepper Tree, we've got some fitness improvements we want to do. A couple things we have to do tonight is consider them, all those projects categorically exempt, and we consider them because it's replacing existing structures that are already there. We want you to appropriate $100,000 from district-wide fund balance. We think we'll be okay, that we're actually just a tad over budget, but the $50,000 for each Glenwood and Wildwood will help with the contingencies, and in general, we don't have many change orders on playground projects. And then it would be awarding the bid to Access Pacific. And if you recall, Access Pacific was actually the contractor that built Sopwith for us. So they're using the same playground installer and servicing folks as they did over at Sopwith. So this should be a good project. They're a very good contractor. So with that, I am available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hare. Director Huffer.
I love these pictures that you have of the various playgrounds. Is this pretty much what they're going to look like?
No.
That's not true.
Yes. This is pretty much the playground supplier, and the only thing honestly different with the two is they use that's not the park it's in, that's just kind of like a stock photo for the back. So I mean, I've actually shown this to people. Someone's like, Pepper Tree really looks like that? Like, no. Yes. So this is what it's actually going to look like. These are the actual playground pieces that will be put into the parks.
Okay, I'm not sure that unless maybe it's the same sort of thing we have over at Old Meadows Playground, but I think in all 3 of these, the swing sets include one swing that.
Tandem.
Yeah, companion. Yeah, your companion swings. Yes, that's one of the things we've been doing. We just put them in at our last round of. It's been pretty successful watching. And again, I'm at the parks a lot and see a lot of. It's great watching, whether it's an older sibling or the mom or dad get in, so you don't have to sit behind and just push. That you can actually get in the swing and
Swing of things.
And, you get the swing of things with them, so you can actually see them swinging. So it's actually a fairly popular thing right now.
Okay, and then the numbers you had for the 3 parks. I know each year you present us with the capital improvement project budget. And apparently you were pretty close to being right on for Pepper Tree, but needed an additional $50,000 each for Glenwood and Wildwood. Were there some additions to those two parks that is?
Yeah, just we were off. Yeah, that's how we usually try to put contingencies in. They were like Pepper Tree was $500,000, and Glenwood and Wildwood were Glenwood was $350,000 and Wildwood was $250,000, and so they came in slightly higher than that. But again, then we want to go in. Yes, again, we were just a little bit off of what we wanted to do, and then we just have to throw the contingency on there just in case there are something weird happens, and we have to actually throw some more money at it.
Okay. It was interesting to see in the bid sheet that it seems like in some of the projects we've seen in the past, there's a huge variance in the bids, and these seem to be pretty close across the board.
Yeah, it was pretty tight. It was a pretty tight bid.
Is that typical for playground refurbishments? Because much of it is the cost of the equipment. So
Actually, I mean, interesting you mentioned that. So the one contractor who's probably done 15 of our past 20 playgrounds, somehow he always comes in about 20% less than the second one. And he did not bid this one. He said he called and said he plumb forgot to, because he didn't, you have to attend the job walk in order to be eligible to bid, and he just totally missed out on the job walk, so he wasn't allowed to bid. And it's always interesting. He's a very good contractor. We like working with him, but it's always fun when we, I don't know if you've ever been to a bid opening, because he'll say $1 million for Rochelle's company, 1.1 for Melissa's company, and then he has $800,000, because he would still get the bid if he was at $999,000. So they go, darn it, I could have bid another $199,000. I still would have got the job, but he's a really good contractor, but unfortunately he just did not bid this one and called us and apologized.
well, we got a contractor who did Sapways. So,
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Director Kessworth.
Well, I think the parks look beautiful, and my older grandsons love Sapling, so that's one of their favorite parks. It's fun, a lot of, big kid stuff in there. So I think that it'll be great. I have a question, though, probably something everybody else knows, but why do we need to be exempt from California Environmental Quality Act?
Because whenever we do a public works project, whether it's a playground project or building a new park, even step back a little bit, like when we do a larger park, like when we're doing community park, or when we do Wasapwe, California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, by law, we have to examine each park and, each public works project and the effects it has on the environment surrounding. So in order to speed up that process, they've got 23 or 26 what they call exemptions. So rather than paying an environmental consultant like we do with Wasapwe, and I don't know how much it was, but a couple $100,000 for someone, because it's true. There's going to be impacts on traffic. There's going to be impacts on air pollution. There's going to be impacts on parking, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to study that and how you're going to mitigate that. There's like I said, a whole slew of exemptions, and one of the exemptions is, well, all I'm doing is taking down this and replacing it with pretty much the exact same thing. So why do I have to go through the hassle of doing environmental analysis? So that's why we have to declare this project exempt from CEQA, and the board has to actually find that where this particular project is exempt from CEQA, because someone could argue, it'd be fairly fruitless, but someone could argue, and I'm totally the playground, like for instance Glenwood, how Glenwood, we were talking about it's got the swings and the playground here, and then we're gonna put them more together because it's more efficient and more effective. Well, you just made Glenwood the worst park in the whole wide world, and you didn't do your environmental analysis saying that now. I can even make up something that you change it. So the board has to find that there's an exemption from CEQA for this.
And just to put it in historical perspective, you mentioned Director Gibson on the water project. Director Gibson, whose business happens to be CEQA, reminded us some years ago that even on projects like this, that we do indeed need to specifically declare that it's exempt from the.
Okay.
Yeah, we've only been doing this for about 6 or 7 years, and even CEQA even kind of spills over into, like when I come before you for Canal Valley Days, and for that they do for events, like if they actually do that now for like Coachella and Stagecoach, same things, because the event has a impact on the community, the surrounding community, for even if it's just for 1 day or 5 days or whatever. So the event. So what have you done to study the event?
So I assume that when we put in Caneo Creek Southwest, we will have to have this report because it'll be a new part, a new
Yes.
part.
Yes.
Thank you.
And it does, and I don't know if Tom highlighted, does cost a lot of extra money and time on the staff. So that's important. Yes, Director Nichols.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Harry, you mentioned that these playground improvement projects will be taking place on the same site, but is this just a matter of removing the existing play equipment and replacing it, or is this going to be in essence, a demolition of that whole area and putting some brand new design and facility and playground equipment, but at the same location?
Combination. In general, what we try to do is stay within the exact same footprint. We'll have a particular park in, off the top of my head, Pepper Tree. Okay, so Pepper Tree has the exact same footprint. Yeah, so whatever's within the boundaries of the current one will have the new playground. Wildwood, we were taking a look at that and we thought it was worth the effort to extend it just a little bit so we can get some better equipment in it, because that's a smaller, much smaller playground. And then, as I was mentioning before for Director Cussworth, what we actually changed at Glenwood, if you've ever been over there, the swings are like in Siberia. The swings are 75, 100, 200 feet away from the rest of the playground. So why? so we just put them together. And this is, I think, one's a little bit different, but in general, because it's more money, so we try to stay within the same footprint. So there's really not a lot of extra work that the contractor has to do to extend the footprint. But this time, 2 out of the 3 are actually either extending or moving the footprint. And to note too, that actually just reminded me also, I know we had some issues with Kimber Park. All 3 of these will be 5-bar, the engineered wood chip. So this is the same surfacing that we've used for the past umpteen years, and that we're changing from sand to 5-bar through all 3 of these parks.
With that in mind, has there been some public input to help figure out what these different playground designs will be?
Nope. Playgrounds by committee is something that we have been strongly advised by other park districts and city parks department, because then you'll get neighbor Holt wants green and yellow this, and neighbor Nichols says, well, that's stupid. That's Packer colors. I'm a Lions fan. I want blue. And so, no, believe me, it's just, so it's fairly, it's like for like. We take the advice of our playground suppliers on what's popular and what works. We try to go with a little different themes for each one, but we don't go way into a particular theme that it could become like we're dated. But we I would say never, but I think never since we've been here have had any issues whatsoever when we've done besides our servicing over at Kimber. But we've almost, I don't think we've ever had a complaint about a playground, because it's for like swings for swings, slides
Replacement.
for slides, tunnels for tunnels, and if it's cooler, and the suppliers will tell us, oh, this new climbing apparatus is the cool hot thing. This is what everyone loves. So instead of this type of climber, now we've got this type of climber, and that we just sort of update what we currently have. We change our playgrounds about every 15 years or so.
Okay. And reflecting back on the comments that came from Kimber, when this project does get underway, is it just posting signs hey, we're tearing
Yes.
down the old, replacing the new, come back in 6 months and see what you got?
No, not 6 months. But our goal is, we don't let the contractor start demo until we have a delivery
Replacement.
date for the
Okay.
equipment. So it's generally a 2 to 4 week process total.
Okay.
So if he knows that the delivery is in about a week, week and a half, he'll actually put up the fence and start the demo. Then that's when the signs go up, and we'll put a picture of the upcoming playground. So we
Okay.
try to minimize the downtime, and it's usually about 4 weeks total of downtime. And if you remember, the problem with Kimber, unfortunately, was the playground supplier wasn't aware when they designed it, and I'm exaggerating, but Kimber's playground was like this, from left to right. And so, but he designed it like this. So there's different things you have to do as far as transitions.
Yes.
And so he went, it's supposed to be 2 inches from here to here. I'm 8 inches. Uh-oh. And so he said, I want to order a part in here, a safe, a part that actually steps down so we can connect the two. But it takes like sometimes 6 weeks for a playground part.
Okay.
So that's why we don't start the demo. And so Kimber was already, and again, we didn't know till actually started installing that we ran into this problem. And so Kimber was actually down for about 4 to 6 weeks more than it should have been. And so 1 or 2 residents just, got a little shaken about like, what are you guys doing? And, what were you doing? But, I went out there, the Saturday after it was open, and everyone's just having a blast.
Okay.
So it was unfortunate, but we try to minimize the downtime as much as possible.
Okay. All right. And then the last thing I had just a memory of is the fort out at Wildwood Park. Has that ever come up in community
Yes.
requests or discussions, and what's ever come from that?
Well,
If
the
anything?
unfortunate thing about the fort is, and actually you can't really see it in this, and we asked for a fort themed playground. The things they had weren't, it was either really hokey, and I don't think people would really enjoy what we would have there. So it's kind of like, you would notice if I told you, since I told you it's going to be a fort theme, you'll go, I get it. But it's not really, doesn't really hit you in the face with it. But it has come out in the past where it's been a few years. We had, when we took down the fort, we did have some community outreach. What do you want to do here? And unfortunately, what was there and what the community wanted is not something that we could provide for safety reasons, because it's a play structure. Because they wanted the fort back. They want, that was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Was the fort.
Yeah.
But with California Playground Safety Institute, we can't follow any of their, it'd be nearly impossible to replicate what that was there. So, unfortunately, no. And I'd like to do something there. And I don't know if you've noticed, we have the kiosk there with the plans, and we try to give it the best nod we can. One of our suggestions was we wanted to take some wood and hardware from the original fort and make like a picnic area and use that original wood for the split rail fence and the sign and do all sorts of things. But the community said no. So we did not do it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all for my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director Nichols. Director Holt, any comments, questions? All right. One quickie, noticing that 9 people showed up for the walkthrough and 8 bids were received. That's I think the last couple of times, that's a good percentage.
Yes, that is very good.
All right, I'm ready to entertain a motion. We've got 3 recommendations. Who would like to take on the motion?
I'll be happy to do that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director Nichols.
I'd like to follow the recommendations and determine that the Glenwood, Wildwood, and Pepper Tree Playfield Playground projects are categorically exempt from CEQA, to appropriate the $100,000 from the district-wide fund balance from the account 62-804-811-81203-003, and split 50/50 with the other account 62-803-911-80903-001. And then finally, to award the bid to Access Pacific Inc. for $1,093,260.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Director Huffer. Appreciate that. Any other comments or questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, that motion will pass. And thank you, Mr. Hare, for all the efforts associated with that item. All right, you're up again for
Sure.
9C, purchase of 3 vehicles in the amount of $82,748.07.
Yes, thanks, Chair Lang, members of the board. Purchasing 3 new vehicles, 2 utility vehicles and 1 SUV. It's the courier's vehicle. Trading in 3 vehicles also to replace them. The 3 vehicles we're trading in, they've reached their end of their life cycle and require replacement. We received 3 bids, of which Courtesy Chevrolet Center was the lowest of the 3 bids at $82,748.07. And with that, I am available for questions.
Are there questions? Yes,
Well,
Director Cussworth.
So usually we have Canal Valley Schools buy our trucks. So
we offered and they did not.
they
want
just
them.
didn't want them.
No, they didn't.
Okay.
Director Huffer. Oh, man.
You can make up another question.
Yeah, just make up a question. What color,
Nice trucks.
what colors are they?
Yes, they're white. And they'll have a logo that says Canal Rec and Park District. on the
Oh,
side.
unique idea.
Yes, yeah. We're just gonna go break from tradition.
Okay, any other comments or questions? And kind of piggyback on Director Cussworth on the trade-ins. To me, that looks pretty good. You know, got basically 1 vehicle free.
Yeah, no, it's actually, it's a great credit to our maintenance staff. They were, and I mean, what the school district was getting before too, they're very nice trucks. But we're again keeping them, we're trying to just keep ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
So the maintenance staff and the staff that drives them takes really good care of their vehicles.
That is good. All right, if there are no further, well, okay, then you want me, go ahead. Motion by Director Cuthbert.
So I recommend you award the purchase in the total amount of $8,048.07.
Okay, and a second, Director Holt. Any other comments or questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, that motion will pass. Item D, California Emergency Services Act and consideration of termination of Resolution 031920-A, declaring and joining with the City of Thousand Oaks proclamation of the existence of a local emergency. Mr. General Manager.
Yeah, I think Mr. Hare should do this report too.
Oh,
Good job.
Just roll with it.
No. Okay, so I wrote a fairly lengthy staff report, a little longer, and part of it is because this is a fuzzy area a little bit. Starting right off the bat, when you read the statute, we don't actually have the ability to declare our own emergency declaration. So only the Fed, state, county, or city governments can actually declare a local emergency. So what the Park District has done by history, like we've always done it that way, or, we've always sort of jumped on the coattails of the, other agencies that can declare the emergency. So if the Fed or the county, if the state declares an emergency, but our own county or city wouldn't, we wouldn't join in that one. But when our own county or city declare a local emergency, by tradition, we've sort of tried to join and sort of adopt some sort of resolution or statement that we join their declaration. And so this board on March 19th adopted a resolution declaring a local emergency or joining with the city and the county, basically riding on their coattails, saying, we're also on board, and we will leave it in place until you guys terminate it, or if we choose to terminate it on our own. So Director Nichols did bring up at the last meeting the idea, hey, let's just, stop. It's been 6 months, so, let's go ahead and consider doing it and give us the pros and the cons of doing it, of terminating it. So I had to roll up my sleeves and read some dense statutes and rules and regulations to try to figure it out. It's pretty clear. We don't have to do it. But we have. So if it's not necessary, why would we even bother? And, these are some of the reasons that I've kind of come up with to say, like, why is this a practice worth doing? Or given that we have done it, why should we just leave it alone? And it kind of, by declaring it itself, tells our other government friends that we're here to help them, or possibly be helped by them. So it kind of sends the signal that we too believe that there is a local emergency. And it gives this board the platform during the meeting to consider and understand that by declaring that local emergency, you're authorizing the GM to suspend some of the purchasing power regulations. So yes, you guys, say, oh, you might have to go, and I use the example of like in Woolsey or Hill, you might have to hire Mortimer or FS Construction to go kind of put the parks back together as quickly as we can, and we're not going to go out to bid and do all that work. We're just going to give them time and materials and say, get it done ASAP. With this particular emergency, there's been no need to go out and spend money, although at the time we declared it, who knew we might have to put on like space suits or something, to pay staff to wear space suits or something. We didn't know what might come. It also, the main protection for the condition of a local emergency, whether it's declared by the city or the county, or whether we join it, is that we do get added privileges and immunity, liability protection. And that is like kind of within the disaster service worker area. That's the concept. If you're called upon to act to aid in resolution of that emergency, there's extra liability protection. So if you actually, in doing that work, maybe you're not doing something that you normally do, and you do something, you make a mistake, you might, for example, the real one is like you're trying to dig someone out of the rubble, and you're, shoveling something out, and instead of saving them, you move a beam and it actually kills the person you're trying to rescue, that kind of thing. That's like a horrible example, but that you would be afforded some liability protection, immunity from liability. It's kind of like the Good Samaritan law statutes. You get some protection when you're working in service of that local emergency. This one makes it easier to seek reimbursement and apply for grants through FEMA or OES. And so, I asked Tom, hey, can you check, even on the last two, has anyone from FEMA had a checkbox or anything that says we have to, say, hey, we have ourselves declared a local emergency? And we don't actually do that. We don't have to do that. But the language in the emergency declaration, when we approve it, authorizes staff to seek reimbursement from any government agency, but it's usually the feds or state. So what happens is Tom can use the board's joining of the declaration of emergency, which has that extra language in it, to show the people at OES or FEMA when we're giving them all our receipts and trying to get reimbursement. He's like, hey, our board told us we can ask you for money. So that's kind of why we do it. And any of these things we can fix without having joined the declaration of emergency, because there's a form that we could just bring specifically to this board to have them adopt it, to say we want to ask FEMA for money. So there's ways around, fixing that if we did want to terminate it, but that's another reason we did it. And then our own, I make reading my notes. It does provide some extra gravitas. Say, should we go seek funding that we yet don't even know of, like grant funding or like VCCF, for example, Ventura County Community Foundation, if they have a grant program that says we can go ask for money for some special reason and we can show them we declared a local emergency. These are hypotheticals that I don't know if or whether they'll come to pass. Like there could be new laws or regulations in the future that says if you declared a local emergency or joined one, you get some extra access to cash or something. And then finally, our own internal policies. One thing we did do, and we again would have done it whether we declared the emergency or whether we were just living in the world of the county or city having declared an emergency, is that like we declared where we worked with our staff to have a emergency telecommuting agreement put in place, because normally up until COVID, we weren't all proficient with Zoom and people were expected to be here and not at their, couch Zooming into a meeting. So that whole world's changed. But early on, we like, hey, who's got a telecommuting agreement? We had our council work with us to try to come up with that. Well, how does workers' comp work when someone's sitting on their couch and they trip? Is that a work injury? You got to worry about these things. So we have this telecommuting agreement that we've put in place because of the emergency situation. And of course, not just the telecommuting, but just the work schedules in general are a little kind of all over the map now, given the COVID world. So, some of our internal policies we've definitely flexed quite a bit because of the emergency situation. So, and then you'll read in the memo that, so I'm like, well, what do others do? So I sent, who else joins their city or county and who else goes on their own. And literally it was 50-50. So kind of done both ways. So I kind of, with all that, and, I left it there where it's like really kind of a really close call, but because you guys pay staff to give you a recommendation, our recommendation is, hey, let's leave it in place for that simple reason of, better safe than sorry, or it's a little more protective, sticking with the city and the county. But I guess as I conclude, I can tell you that whatever this board's judgment is and your decision and deliberation will make it work. And we're not going to I don't think we're creating any kind of peril by doing it. Although if you're concerned about that and want to really get a more robust legal opinion, I could send out this all to an attorney that practices that. But I can do some very rudimentary legal research still, and I don't know that there's anyone out there that would profess to be an expert on this. I think it's just reading the plain language of some of the statutes that apply, and I don't think there's a lot of case law out there on any of this. So that's what I got for you. So it's up to you guys.
Okay, I see a quick hand by Director Holt.
Well, I would like, is this on? No, it's not on. Anyway, I would like to move that we accept the recommendation by our general manager. And I know that has to be second, but I wanted to say, I applaud Director Nichols. I mean, I reread this, and I mean, that was good work. And then I read what Jim wrote, and I think just leaving in place at this time is a very good approach, because whatever we do, people in the community will look at it. There'll be people who are against what we do. There'll be people who are for what we do. I mean, you can't win with this. People have their own opinions on everything about this whole situation. So I would move that we accept the recommendation, leave in place the resolution 031920-A, joining with the county and city's emergency declarations at this time.
Director Huffer.
I'm going to second that motion with the comment that, yes, it probably was not something that we needed to do, but the statement that was made in your staff memo that it can't hurt, for me, basically summarizes it. Why get rid of it? It may not make any difference. It probably won't make any difference, but it can't hurt just in case. So with that, I'm going to second the motion.
Okay. We can still have comments and conversation after the motion. Yes, Director Cusworth.
So I want to thank Mr. Friedel for doing this report. I didn't see that there would be any negatives for us to continue with it. It seemed like it was only benefits. So we're benefiting by staying with this policy. In fact, my first thought was when I reread this and it said that special districts could not, declare a local emergency on their own, that they had to go on the coattails of city, county, or state. It made me wonder, which I want to maybe present to Mr. Nichols, since he's on the California State Special Districts Board. Well, why not? People aren't recognizing special districts as real government agencies, and I know that special districts are trying to make themselves, more politically active and more aware in, the public's eye. I can remember when I first came, and Mr. Friedel told me Caneo, Reckham Park is a special district. I didn't know what he was talking about. I'd never heard of a special district before. But as I've been here and I've been going to special district meetings, they're really quite vital to the state of California. And I don't see where we would necessarily have to declare an emergency. We, seems like we're so integrated with the state. But what about a water district or a cemetery district or a health district or a harbor district? There's all these different districts that may not be completely integrated with the state or their city or county, but they're having an emergency within their district because they're very specialized. And if they could have these kind of benefits, if they had a huge emergency, it might be something for the California Special Districts Association to be looking into. It seems to me that there's a lot of benefits to this financially and legally. And so, yes, I would support us staying in this state of emergency, something that we can look at. Thank you for doing this work, because now in the future, if we want to declare an emergency with the city, we'll know why we're doing it, not just for fellowship, not just to tag along, but that we actually have reasons of why it would benefit us. So.
Yeah, and I will confess to not having, really dug into some of the statutes that, allow for the declaration, prior to just kind of riding the coattails, because it's just kind of covering the bases, let's just do what, we think will be best to protect us. But having gone through this exercise, I've learned quite a bit, actually.
Yeah. And it might be something that maybe other special districts would want to learn from. So I think it was worthwhile. Thank you for doing it. I know it was a lot of work.
I'm going to interject then, Director Nichols, but in response to your question, there's a lot of special districts that are very, very, very small. Their budgets are limited. They don't have the capabilities to do anything. They probably don't even have the staff time that our general manager put into this. So that's why, possibly special districts aren't independently allowed to declare an emergency. Now your comment about maybe CSDA as a whole doing some type of declaration of emergency on behalf of a special district, that might be a way to approach that. But anyway, no, again, there's some special districts that some of them don't meet it, maybe twice a year or something like that. They just don't have the capabilities, infrastructure. We're very, very fortunate. We're blessed with our staff and with all of the support we get, from our legal counsel and so forth. And a lot of special districts can't even afford, any special counsel.
Sure. So it would be something for the state to help them, the state special districts. I was thinking, like, what if a cemetery, I was thinking mainly when I was down in Mexico the other year, they had a cemetery that hugely flooded. It was a huge emergency, and they had like bones coming up. I don't know that that would ever happen. But it wasn't an emergency for the city necessarily, but it was an emergency for the cemetery. And I thought there could be things that could happen with some of these special districts that would be an emergency for them, and they might want to have some of these benefits and being able to get the loans and be able to not have the liability and different things. If they had a way to declare an emergency to where the city or the state, it might not be an emergency for them, but it might be an emergency for the special district.
Okay.
Probably wouldn't come up very often, just throwing it out there.
Okay, Director Nichols, who initiated this, and I appreciate you looking into it because I have questions also, but go ahead, Director Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I just want to thank the board for allowing my request to be heard, and also for our general manager for polishing up his legal research skills and diving in. So thank you very much. I'm one that likes to follow process and protocols, kind of do things the way they're intended and supposed to be done. And I do have some experience with this in my previous lifetime working for the city and the fire department and actually preparing emergency operational area plans. So this is something that I've done in the past. So I kind of have a little experience with that. My concern is that the California Government Code is very specific and that only a city or a county can declare emergency. A special district cannot declare that emergency. It's only for a city or a county. So my first thought is, okay, we did something we're not supposed to do. So let's undo that because we're not supposed to do that. We don't have the authority. We're not entitled to do that. So that was my first concern. And I'm actually looking at section 8630 of Article 14. And then there's four sections that A, B, C, and D. I'll go down to number C. If it is declared, then it's to be reviewed by the local government body every 30 days to review and reapprove it, which also hasn't been done, even though we're not supposed to technically declare emergency anyhow. And then the last thing is it's supposed to be terminated at its earliest possible date. And that to me goes into, well, where's the emergency? I don't even see the emergency because it starts talking about that it's, in other words, taxing our resources or if there's an imminent danger. Again, very specific in the code. None of those apply. So that's the last basis I say, we don't even need to declare emergency. So as I going through the items that Mr. Friedel put together here is under these items like a belt and suspenders approach, which I appreciate, certainly certainly worthy of consideration. But as long as a special district of any kind is identified in the operational area plan, that's where the coverage is, and that includes with disaster assistance and the funding. The Park District works hand in hand with the city and the county. We're covered in the city and county area plans. So there's no need to worry about any financial reimbursement. That's covered. Whether we declare an emergency or not is irrelevant because that's all covered in the operational area plan. And then to address the ability to staff responding quickly, our declaring emergency will not change that. They can still respond to the emergency as the board has given them direction. So declaring an emergency does not either change that in any way, it will give you more powers. That's already been given. Same thing with extending immunities and liability protection. Our declaring emergency or rescinding that is irrelevant because that is covered in state law and under the government code and through the Disaster Act because we're identified as a participating agency in the operational plan. Same thing with potential reimbursement. The declaration of an emergency is irrelevant from a special district. It has to do with the city and the county, and if we're identified in the operational plan. So all these things as I go through, nothing will change whatsoever whether we declare emergency or not because we can't declare an emergency. It's whether the district is included within the operational area plan with the city and the county. Future unknowns are unknown. I can't discuss anything that's unknown. And to the last point, whether other recreation and park districts do it or don't is irrelevant. because it's very clear in the state code. Recreation districts, any special district cannot declare an emergency. It's only the city, county, or they say city and county, such as San Francisco and Sacramento, which are contiguous as a city and a county. So that's my position, again, besides the fact that there's no emergency anymore, and we haven't revisited this every 30 days. So with that, I cannot support the motion because I think we should rescind it because we're acting inconsistent with state law. And I think we need to get that off the books and say, no, we can't declare emergency. That's the responsibility of the city and the county. They both have done that. I'll take up my grievances with them as to whether I agree with it or not. But I don't believe it's our role, or nor should we be entertaining this in the future. My suggestion would be, if we wanted to make a resolution, to support the city's resolution or the county's resolution in declaring emergency. We are not declaring an emergency ourselves, but we support their decisions to do so. And that would be my suggestion if you want to have something on the books to make that declaration. But the way I see it, we're acting against the California government code, and I think we should rescind that immediately, as it states, in the earliest possible date, which would be tonight. So I would request you consider that and rescind the declaration, terminate it.
Thank you,
Mr. Chair.
Director Nicholas. Back on March 19th, based on all the information and hoopla about COVID-19 and what it was and what it isn't, we acted based on information we were provided, and we made that decision, and that's how this developed. I too had questions, especially when Director Nichols submitted his questioning of this. I went through and made some marks, and I had a couple questions I was going to ask that you've already asked. Quickly, we can act quickly. It's up to us whether we act quickly or not. Protect us. I wasn't quite sure on the protection based on some of the information that Director Nichols. So I too believe that it was unnecessary, that our staff worked with the best information they had, made the recommendation, and we supported it based on that. But I no longer have that same questioning factor about an emergency. I no longer see the potential of having an emergency. And I do sincerely appreciate the effort that our general manager put into this, but I too wouldn't support that motion. Director Holt.
All this talk about emergencies, and I think one of the strongest points that has been made in Jim's evaluation here is that we don't know what kind of emergency is going to happen. We're not talking just about this current emergency that we've had. And the fact that it states in here that otherwise we would have to have a board meeting and have the board vote if we didn't go along with this program. Whereas the way it is now, if something flares up, and Jim will have the authority to make decisions that otherwise might, with another approach, would have to be made by the board at a board meeting, but certain things, fires that we've had, et cetera, we don't know what to expect in the future. That's why I'm in favor of keeping it. So I made the original motion, so I guess just have it to vote on.
Director Huffer.
Okay, I can certainly understand, perhaps not understand, but I defer to Director Nichols' experience and expertise in some of these areas that I personally don't have. That's why we rely on staff in certain areas of expertise. That's why we rely on the county fire department to tell us what we should be doing and not doing to reduce the risk of fires in our community. That being said, all of these probably are valid points, but would have been more appropriate to bring up during our March meeting as opposed to at this point. Going forward, if we're faced with some other situation where there might be an emergency, then those arguments probably would make sense. We don't, under state law, apparently, according to your understanding, and I'm going to defer to that, we don't have the authority to declare an emergency. We can say that we're going along with the city and the county and the state, and that's actually what our resolution in March is saying. It says that we concur with and join the County of Ventura and the city's proclamation of local emergency. Okay, that's basically what we said. We're joining with them. All right, we agree with them. To, at this point, after 6 or 7 months or whatever the number is, to say, okay, we're now saying there is not an emergency.
We don't.
I'm not sure it sends the right message to our constituents, our community, and also sends a message to possibly to the city and to the county. All right, in March, we said that we are concurring and joining with you. We no longer concur with you. Is that good or bad? I personally don't think that's a good thing. That's my own personal opinion. So again, I don't see any harm in leaving this in place. It may have been put in place incorrectly to begin with, but I don't know that we're breaking any state law by having done it, by keeping it in place. So that again, I support the motion that was brought forth by Director Holt.
Thank you, Director. Any, Director
Yeah,
Nichols?
just wanted to clarify. First of all, I just wanted to thank our general manager and all the staff for all the extra efforts that have gone through to follow the unending and unchanging state and county guidelines for getting us to where we are today. It's been unprecedented in so many respects, and I don't mean to diminish that in the least, that I recognize that, and that will still continue regardless of what happens here, that those efforts still need to go forward, because I know a lot of things have changed outside of our control and will continue to be outside of our control. But the reason I bring this up, and appreciate Mr. Heffer for the your acknowledgement of your understanding and the support that you give as far as expertise and so forth. But I'm also looking into the future. So if I learn something through this process, I can say, yeah, March I had a different perspective than I do today. So now I've learned something more, and I want to make what I think is the right decision based on the new information that I've gained from this process. But I'm also thinking about this, whether it be the next fire that we have or the next catastrophe. What is our process? What is our protocols? And I've learned from this, well, we can't declare an emergency, so we can't do that. So if we can't, let's make sure that everything else is in place, and I believe that it already is, through participating with the city and county as far as being within the operational area. And I think we also have set those procedures in place where if there is an emergency declared, the general manager has certain abilities, because since we can't declare an emergency, and if the city were to, or the county, then he has that ability. So that's already in place. So I don't think we need to make any changes as far as our process, only that we don't declare emergencies. This body is not entitled or authorized to declare emergencies. So now that I've learned that, I say, okay, then let's undo it, because we want to, the message to the city, the state, the county is, well, we realize that we don't have the authority to do it, if that's your concern. But anyhow, that's my position as far as I see that perspective.
Thank you, Director Nichols. Yes, Director Cusworth.
Well, when I'm looking back at the March 19th recommendation, and it's circled here, it says the resolution is we're declaring and joining with the city of Thousand Oaks. So it looks like we're looking at one word that was pretty much put in there that shouldn't have been put in there. It's how I'm seeing it. If it just said we are joining with the city of Thousand Oaks proclamation, instead of declaring and joining, because it seems to be that we can't declare an emergency. But if the declaration just said, we are joining with the city of Thousand Oaks proclamation of the existence of a local emergency. So we're looking at one word, it looks like, that we said declaring and joining. If we just said joining, there would be no problem. I don't think that I would feel comfortable at this point now making a declaration that I no longer feel there is an emergency if the city and county is still saying there is. I don't think I would be going against, what they are saying. But moving forward, if we want to do this again, we could just say resolution joining with the city of Thousand Oaks. It seems like the declaring was the problem. It's a one-word problem. And we can join because it says right in the beginning that special districts can join.
Actually,
says-
actually in the
whole-
in the code, special districts aren't even mentioned.
But we can join. There's
So
nothing.
I don't think
against
we
the
need
law.
any more resolutions.
Right. No, I don't want to do another resolution.
so
I
let's-
was talking about.
Director Huffer,
I'd like to call for the question, please.
I'm going to comment in reference to, this is about COVID-19. I thought I heard a comment saying it was not, it's just some general emergency. It's specifically said in the resolution related to COVID-19. Also, in some of the thinking of the comments I heard, maybe we should have a resolution, but we won't, and it doesn't make sense. But based on a couple of comments, just put a resolution in place and it's in there forever. If you want it to cover certain things that our general manager can and can't do, then put a resolution at the very beginning as part of our bylaws. But again, it's not necessary, and I will call for the question. We have a motion to accept the recommendation to leave resolution 031920-A joining with the county and city emergency declarations. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes 3-2. And once again,
Let me say thanks to all of you and to kind of state that to the extent we were a little too cautious by trying to join and declare and be like us two at the emergency, causing this kind of little kerfuffle that maybe didn't need to exist. I apologize as staff. So it's just, we have always sort of done something when the city or
you
county
did the
do
best
it.
you
So,
could with the information you had. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so we
Yep.
got it.
Thank you,
No
Jim.
apologies necessary. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
continued leadership.
Okay, we're going on to item 10, reports and announcements. 10A, park dedication fees. B, investment report. And C, budget performance report for August 22. Anybody want to comment? Yes, Director Huffer.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I'd like to see a whole lot more of
Yeah.
these $1.5 million fees as opposed to $5,000. So,
It's on Thousand Oaks Boulevard, that's why.
yeah, I know.
What are you talking about?
The dedication fees.
Oh, the Quimby. Okay, I didn't. I
All right, we're
thought he was
moving on
talking about
to
something else.
Item
It was like,
11.
what?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, for Mr. Harris, would that money, would that be within the area of AFC Southwest? Would that money be for AFC Southwest?
Yep. Okay, any other questions? Department reports. 11A, Mr. Hare.
Thanks, Charlene, members of the board. Just reiterating the email I sent last week about some of the community outreach we're doing for several different projects. We had our meeting at Lang Ranch Neighborhood Park on Tuesday night. We had 4 participants. 2 of them were very well known to this board. And but it was a good meeting with the participants. Then next week, I'll probably send out a reminder to you. On Monday, we have the 2 meetings with the dog park. On Tuesday evening at 6 and at October 6th at 6 o'clock, and then on Saturday at 10 a.m. We'll also be on site and via Zoom. And then we're going to have the Kinnear community ones in the beginning of November. I did say in the email on site, but we just reversed course on that. We just a little worried that too many people might be showing up. That we could have. I mean, we never had more than 30 or 40, but hundreds. But it wouldn't be a good idea. So we're just going to do a Zoom meeting with that one.
Repeat.
The Caneo community meetings
Oh,
that in the beginning of November, which I'll send you that information as we get closer
Okay.
to that one too. But so next, so we've got
That's my part.
we have 4 meetings upcoming. The dog, 2 next week for the dog park, which I'll send you a reminder out, in which we already have the Zoom set up and all that, and that's gonna be on site. And then we'll send you another reminder mid to late October about the Caneo community ones, and that'll be Zoom only meetings.
Oh, Zoom on there.
Zoom only meetings, because it could be too many. We had no idea. So, and so then, and I will greatly miss you next board meeting. I will not be here. Andrew Mooney will be covering. So,
Going somewhere?
going to Utah. It was I missed my Norway trip, so I get out.
okay, thank you, Mr. Hare. Any questions of Mr. Hare and his report? Director Huffer.
Just a quick question. I happened to go by Wildflower Playfields this morning and wondering why they tore up the concrete in front of the restroom building there. No big deal.
I'll find out for you. Didn't know what happened.
The 3 gentlemen who were working that didn't look too disappointed when they found out the concrete couldn't be delivered and they didn't have to stand out there and work concrete in 100-degree temperatures. So
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I don't know. Was it our guys, a contractor, or do you know?
I don't know, 3 guys came out of a CRPD truck, so.
I hope they're our guys.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
that's one of the old trucks though,
Yeah,
so
yeah. I'll let you know.
I'm just
So-
curious.
So Director Huffer, your question is why?
Well, what was going on?
What, why?
They tore up the concrete.
Was it cracked before, do you know? So you just want to know?
I'm just curious.
Okay,
I will find out for you.
there must have been a good reason. All right, 11B, Recreation Division report.
Thank you, Chair Lang, members
Michelle.
of the board. Thanks. So I do have a couple of things I just want to make sure to share with you guys. So I think it was mentioned earlier that we are doing rentals, a lot more rentals on our property right now. I think some of you guys have gotten concerns from community members. They're going out, they're seeing large groups on our property. Some are our rentals, some are not our rentals. So I know the Acorn has contacted us and maybe doing a story on this. So just wanted you guys to know kind of the wording and the verbiage that I've been using for our community members is that if they see something going on, you need to call us so that we can do some research into if it was something that was a rental and allowed, and they're following the rules that they should be following, or if it was something that wasn't allowed, a visitor from out of the area, and in which case we can go back and after the fact and try to make sure that the park is not being utilized by organizations that are not following the rules. So, but we would not encourage them to engage or have conversations necessarily with them, telling them they're doing stuff that they're not supposed to do, but to call us and we'll try to address it, figure out who was on the play fields. 2, wanted to thank Melissa, Loretta, Mark, and Melissa Rufio. And Andy, we are now officially on a new reservation system that's been specifically developed for us by 9 Planets. We were having some difficulties with the old system, and it's been about a 2-3 year process to switch over and get this going. And been a little bit of a blessing with COVID because we've been able to slowly integrate everything and clean the old system up and everything. So, but Loretta and Andy and Melissa and Mark really, really worked hard, and I couldn't have done it without them because I'm not as familiar with the system. So just wanted to give a shout out to them. Also let you guys know, and hopefully I'm not stepping on any toes, but it has been announced that we have 2 staff that will be retiring. So Kathy will be retiring in January, and Pete from Outreach will be retiring at the end of December. So
Pete?
Both people that have really made an impact on our district and our community, and so we will definitely miss them. And they've definitely left a legacy with us. So just so you know that. A couple of other things I just thought you might find interesting. So I did a little bit of research And so quick numbers, just so you kind of understand the impact on our resources that we're having financially with recreation. So in the first 2 months of this current year, we are down 58% in our revenue. We have saved 35% in our expenses. Overall, in those 2 months, we are $35,000 better than last year. This is all compared to last year. But I'm still very, very worried. My staff are really working hard to increase classes, offer classes, get people on our fields. For rentals, we lost over $100,000 in rentals alone in 2 months. So we're just really working hard, and my team is trying to be very, very creative and bringing in revenues while meeting the needs of our community. So just wanted to let you know that. And we have minimum wage that goes up in January, which will be another impact that we did plan for, but we didn't plan for COVID. So that in your package, you've got a nice little handout. My favorite buddy James does this for me. So just a couple of things to pull out. We actually had a 9% return rate on our survey, which is awesome. Usually surveys get about 3% return rate. So to have 9% of our 2,200 people that we sent it to is awesome. 2 things that I found interesting was the question in the top right-hand corner regarding when schools go back in, what are parents wanting to look for? And it's really sports and fitness classes. So we'll be looking at that as we market and try to put new classes into place, that we do that, because we obviously know the, 9% of the people, the 212 people, those are the kinds of classes they want. And then the other thing that was really nice to see was in the question on how was the satisfactory of COVID-19 as far as us following protocols and implementation by staff. We had 73% in outstanding, 23% in satisfactory. So what, like 7, 8, 9, over 90%, which is good. Sorry, I had to do quick math. I didn't use my fingers. So overall, people are still really, really happy with what we are offering, and we seem to still be meeting those needs. You also have your recreation highlights in the front part with Dos Vientos. I think you guys heard a little bit about it when Brian was here, but we are partnering with Rancho Potrero Community Equestrian Center, and we've been doing some awesome new classes out there and camps that they've been doing with us. So those are going really well, and the kids in the community, and there's a hike tonight, a full moon, not hike, but horseback riding. And so I'll be interested to see how that goes. We've got our Halloween trick-or-treat drive-through, which we actually got a sponsor this year. So we're super grateful to Shaw HR Consulting, who sponsored us to help make this happen. We're charging $10 per car. We had 250 people registered. We sold out in 4 days. We also have Kiwanis. That is one of the groups that I believe is going to be joining us in helping pass out things to the kids while following our 6 feet of separation and all that good stuff. And I'll be out there volunteering that night too. So hopefully it'll be really fun. On the back, you can see we talked about the brats and bingo. Just so you know, registration started today. So if you're interested in participating, get online, get your tickets. And the Global Center is going to also be doing the Halloween Masquerade Breakfast. So those tickets go on sale on October 16th. And then the following graph at the end, as you can see, we are still nowhere near the hours for our staff that we were before COVID started. So a lot of that has to do with programs not available, hours just not available, but we're still trying to get all of our staff back to work as we have jobs for them and they want to come back to work. Global Gazette, do you guys all get this? Whoop, I just threw it on the floor. Oh, okay, I put it in your packet last week or something. Okay, good. Lots of really cool activities, lots of Zoom classes going on. So Global is actually doing Zoom classes, and that's really the only revenue maker that they've got. They're starting to do some of these other little special events. So, and I think with that, I am available for questions.
Thank you, Rochelle, and I'm just going to interject. You did mention Mark in that new reservations program, and thank you, Mark, for your contribution on that. Director Cutsworth.
I was just wondering, are they using the parking lot of the Global Center for this wraps and window?
Yes.
So are they giving out like sausages and stuff?
I think they're doing a whole dinner. A dinner comes, it's 2 people per car for the $10. And you're gonna get a dinner and it's gonna be delivered to the window of your car. And then they're gonna play bingo over an FM transmitter. So yeah, new ways to do things, you guys. It's
Wow.
nothing's normal.
Is that how the money comes too?
Yes, and I think, well, they're gonna pay for registration online, so there will be no cash transfers. That's not a thing of the now. It's all.
I guess.
Director Holt.
I was just curious, is the center open at all? No, okay.
We
I
are
didn't
running
think so.
programs out of them. Like I think Jim said earlier, all of our community centers currently are not open to the general public, but all of them have programs running out of them. So even Goebel Center, between the lunch program, they are also running one of the quarantine camps. So in the afternoon, Conejo Community Center didn't have enough space at the Conejo Center, so they're doing it at the Goebel Center. So we have a group of 10 kids every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in the afternoon at Goebel Center. So we're trying to use, the space as we can.
Thank you.
Any other? Director Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You mentioned the rentals are increasing gradually. I just was curious, what type of outreach have you made to let folks know that they are available, or is it just people are not wanting to rent right yet?
Oh no, all of our regular rental folks, sports groups and stuff, they've all been for probably a month or so now. As soon as we could rent it, because it's conditioning and fitness, not games and practice or games and tournaments.
Mhm.
As soon as we got the green light to do that, they were all, Deanna emails them probably every other day with what they can do and can't do. And so they had to get their attestation, which took some time. They had to turn in their plans to us with their approval for their attestation. So there was kind of a process that it took a little while. And I think some of the sports groups were trying to figure out, did they want to, did they not want to, what could they do, not do, that type of thing. So all of our local folks that are in our groups to rent the properties have been communicated with.
Okay.
And then
okay.
we are getting a lot of people wanting to have birthday parties and stuff like that, which we can't do yet. We've reached out to churches and we've got a decent amount of outside rental space that's happening for churches. I think we'll see that probably go down when churches start opening and being able to have services inside. But yeah, wherever we can do it, we're trying to push it out. It's mostly by phone calls and emails of people who already use our facilities.
Is the situation such where the facilities are not available because there's too much demand, or is it the demand isn't there and you still have facilities available?
No, we still have facilities available because like inside, we can't rent anything inside right now. So outside, I believe there's still facilities available in places where we can put people for things, but it's really when games are allowed again, we're going to be packed.
Okay.
So we're just, for picnics, we're waiting for gatherings being allowed. Like what can we have for a picnic? Because right now it's the same household, no gatherings. So hopefully when we go to Red, some information will be given to us, or we'll be looking at, what's allowed for different things to see if we can get in some opportunities for a birthday party.
Yes, that would be nice. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Then, thank you. Another question, Director Holt?
I don't know, this is something, I don't know whether this is in your bailiwick, but that picnic in the park. Now, as I got the flyer, we got that last time. So you call up and you order your own dinner, and then you have to bring your own chairs to sit in and all that.
Unfortunately, it went 2 weeks, and I think restaurants are being able to, use their parking lots and that kind of thing. So it wasn't as successful as we hoped. So
Okay.
it is actually not going anymore.
Oh, is it?
So,
Oh,
no,
okay.
yes. But we tried, we get
Yeah.
creative, we try things, and the chamber was awesome to be willing to try it also with us. And, unfortunately didn't meet the need of the business people or the community because they weren't ordering the dinners and the businesses weren't selling enough. So it didn't work right now.
Yeah, the first one, I think, was at a meeting, so,
Yeah.
I was thinking, oh, I want to do that. Anyway,
Okay.
thank you.
Real quickie, your participant satisfaction survey, looking at the results, and we already mentioned sports and fitness. I mean, overwhelmingly, a big positive response. But what surprised me looking down the row there, homework help was not that popular. So is this satisfaction survey, if you can recall some of the previous years, is this kind of where homework ends up, or?
I don't know that we've actually specifically asked about homework in the past. I think that there was kind of a little focus for us to put it in there to see, because like with quarantine, we're not focused on helping them with their schoolwork. We're focused on being recreational. So it actually wasn't surprising to me because people see us as a recreational facility and they want to sign their kids up to do recreational activities with us. They're not looking for us to do homework with them. We
But-
do homework help with Warwick and Conejo condos, which are very isolated areas that are specific for those things. And that is needed in those two areas, which my guess would be they didn't respond to this survey. Or a few of them did, and that's where you got those numbers from.
Yeah, but we do know historically, we had homework clubs at the teen center. Or
Teen Center is a little bit different. Yeah.
now we can't, conduct classes there and so forth, but there was a need, or used to be a need.
And you are correct. Teen Center does do more homework assistance and tutorial type stuff with the teens. And they, through youth outreach, should be starting to open up some things here, hopefully this month.
Great.
Mhm.
Okay, Director Huffer.
Yeah, Rochelle, the chart that you have showing the part-time and
Mhm.
hourly contract staff, this keeps dragging on and dragging on. At what point do we start to worry about the fact that these part-time people have gone elsewhere because they're not getting any work? And is that going to be an issue however many months down the line when we can start offering programs again?
It very well can be. We have independent contractors that have told us they don't want to come back, mostly because of the COVID situation and they're not ready to work with kids. We just did a questionnaire with all of our centers on who's working, who's not working, why they're not working. And there's a good handful that they're not back because it's their choice. And then there's a decent amount that we just don't have the hours. And yes, they could be just staying on unemployment and be fine. They could have already found another job. We won't know until we need them back if they're going to come back or not.
Thank you.
Wow, good report, a lot of questions, and thank you and your department, Michelle. Melissa Smith, Management Services Division report.
Thank you, Chair and Directors. Just very briefly, we're watching the budget very closely, as Rochelle indicated, and want to give her credit and her staff because they're being so cautious with everything going on. And so that's great. And we're also tracking the potential legislation to might offset some of our lost revenue or reimburse us for some of our increased costs. So we're watching that closely, and I'll report back if we get any updates on that. So with that, I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Melissa. Why am I not surprised? Director Huffer.
Yeah, where do we stand on I know it's still real early, but the early retirement program for employees?
We've had 2 that Rochelle mentioned that are taking advantage of it and set dates. And then I think we have 2 more that are still working with Shelley on appointments or to discuss them. So.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, we're moving on to 11B, General Manager's Report.
Thanks, Chair Lang, members of the council. Very quickly, we being Tom Hare and I, met with some city planners, felt like all of the city planners via Zoom. Mark Town pulled everyone together, and it was almost entirely as a result of the board meeting we had a couple weeks ago. So we got some attention, and it was very nice. We had a good discussion. So that actually was great. And they were helpful, and we had the opportunity to tell them, like, hey, think of parks just like you think of, is the street wide enough? Is the wastewater line big enough? Is the water line big enough to serve when the new homes come in? So we're trying to get them to think like parks are the essential service that's part of, building a good community. And it's not necessarily something at the front of their mind as they're trying to figure this stuff out. So it was great that we got to kind of make that pitch and, talk about that. So that was a really good discussion. And then just for rumor's sake, Mark Town is retiring. I don't know if I had mentioned that already. He's going to be retiring at the end of December, and Kelvin Parker has been named the new community development director. Kelvin's on the inside, so it's an inside promotional at the city. So that's good for Kelvin. HR 7073, so the email I had sent, Special Districts Provide Essential Services Act. So that, I think, is an act that's embedded in the next CARES or HEROES Act or whatever it's called, the acronym, but the next big, hopefully, coronavirus relief bill, at least hopefully in terms of us, if that can go through. So what that does is it takes the big chunk of money they were already giving to states, cities, and counties, that they were going to give to states and local government. So they're saying to the feds, like the feds, if they pass it, the feds would say, look, we're going to give you guys still that big chunk of money, cities, states, and counties, but now 5% of it has to be used for special districts. And it's really vague after that. So it's not like a per capita or per district service area or per type of district. So then it'll become a political, if it passes, then it'll become a political, like, all the special districts trying to scramble to be part of that 5%. So I don't know how that might end up, but at least, some people are even saying, talking about special districts, which is good. And if you haven't had a chance to call Julia Brownlee, there's still time, because as of tonight, they still hadn't passed it out of the House. They're still talking about it, right? Right. I mean, it's still like it's happening now. It's like happening this week, so it could happen any day. And then just for kicks, I called Tom McClintock's office since I hadn't. I'd met with him various times when he was at the state legislature, but I just called him out of the blue, and then I called Ted Liu because I live in Agora and he's the guy for Agora, and that was always just leaving a voicemail, so not a big deal, not a big deal. Then just a heads up from the ET meetings I go to, this is kind of your personal info. Apparently there is a ton of bike theft occurring, so do not leave your garage door open if you have a bike in it. Don't leave your bike out. And I guess bikes are hard to come by because of COVID. Everybody's been wanting to buy a bike. So I think the bike theft people have figured out, I can steal a bike, and these things are worth $2,000-$3,000 now when you pull them out of a garage. And so anyway, they're getting tons of bike thefts. And then the other thing they mentioned was actually catalytic converter thefts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So if you own a Ford truck, your catalytic converter is at risk, because apparently that's something people are stealing.
It's the metals inside.
Okay. Yeah.
Got some valuable metals in there.
Yeah. And then
And that's happening in Thousand Oaks.
yeah. And now there is intense interest from the Westlake Hills community, around Russell Park, about there's kind of next door Costco board members, maybe more than the whole CRPD board members, but I think everybody's gotten a few emails. But they've kind of really turned their sights onto the city electeds and the mayor, and so apparently the city is going to have some sort of Zoom community input meeting on the 6th on Tuesday from that community to kind of listen. And they're planning to hire some fire expertise to kind of like what we did with the North Ranch Neighborhood Park, to kind of be their, I guess, fire ecologists, along with Spikerman, John Spikerman from the fire department will be there. So they're going to do that, I think, on the 6th. And it also kind of ties to Costco will be having a special meeting. You're probably going to get a call in the next day or two, Chuck and Doug, because we want to start working with, I think it was Fire Council of Ventura County or Fire State Council.
Yes, Central Ventura County.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So the Costco board will be getting a report on that and sort of working with them through Costco.
Okay.
Finally, this is not good news to report. It's still a little unclear about where this is at, but I heard about it from Chuck. I sent it to the police and they verified it was true, at least that the report was made. So a female adult at Canal Creek North, there to exercise, had her earbuds in. A male suspect, a white male, 5'6", 170 pounds, 20 to 30 years old, wearing a black sweatshirt, gray sweatpants, attempted to rob her by grabbing her around the neck and trying to take her cell phone. And she was able to like fight him off and ran out of the park and that kind of stuff. But apparently it's got attention on social media and stuff. And so it kind of went with, not only did this happen, but the homeless are rampant in and around Canal Creek Park, and it's dangerous, and don't let your kids play there. So it's not just this bad situation happened, but now it's that the whole park is dangerous and overrun. So
What hour, the date?
7 o'clock at night, was it? Yeah, Canal Creek North. So yeah, so no witnesses. So it's just the report from her to the police, and the police were checking library, senior center, teen center for videotape cameras and stuff to see if anything. So anyway, they're out looking for this guy.
Have we alerted staff to be extra alert? Do that work at Canal Creek?
Yeah, those folks are, yeah. Yeah, we had not generally the whole district,
No,
but
no,
teen,
no.
senior, yeah.
Good.
So anyway, that's just a kind of a bummer when it happens in a park.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And for
happens
her
anywhere,
locals.
but yeah.
What time of day?
About 7 at night,
Hmm.
like evening.
Yeah.
It was right near
That's when it starts to
it was
go.
right near the, she was on the grass right by the gratitude circle, out of that part of the bowl area there.
Hmm.
So anyway, so Freihoff, Police Chief Freihoff has kind of been in touch with me. He's going to kind of keep me up to date when they hear stuff. So I'll let you guys know when I hear anything. Get the plan.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. That concludes your report. So any questions of the general manager? Any questions of the general manager? Oh, Director Huffer.
Gee, I can just feel the love. Could you send us out an email with the details on that city fire conference? I definitely want to listen in on that, so
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah,
Oh,
me also, because I'm a recipient of resident. Yes, Director Holt.
I've noticed on my calendar, that the National Recreation and Park Association is having a virtual, what do you call it? They're meeting virtually this year instead of a conference somewhere. And I don't know how they're arranging it, but I was just wondering, there might be some sessions that they're doing that have some value for board members. And I don't know how you sign up for that. And I mean, we might be able to just sit here.
I'm already registered, and Elaine will take care of you.
Well, but I mean, are you doing it at home?
It's a Zoom.
I know, but I mean, we could do Zoom here too, and, because I know the cost is like, what, 275 or something?
Yeah, reasonable. Very reasonable.
Well, it's not that
Well,
reasonable.
compared to normal,
Yeah.
to normally flying and travel. And
Right, but I mean, I was just thinking that there might be certain sessions that are valuable to us. There are going to be other sessions that won't be valuable.
Sure.
Or you
Um,
just pick and choose like you normally do, but you can
Yeah.
do it at home.
Okay,
I think the point perhaps she's making is rather than 5 of us paying $275 a piece,
yes,
if there are only 1 or 2 sessions
Yeah,
that are of
but that's
value.
just per session. I think that Aline knows more about it than I do. I'm a general manager.
that was my
registration-
point.
But the registration to participate in the conference, it's a virtual conference, is
Yeah.
so much money. And then within that amount of money you paid, you pick and choose.
I know,
Okay. well, it's
but
not
I
gonna
mean, per
save-
person, we're talking almost $300 a person. And I've been to national conferences, and there are certain topics that don't even apply to us. And so I was thinking if, we had a schedule and, we could come and watch 1 session or 2 sessions or something. That's all. I mean,
The other possibility is, and I haven't looked at the site, so I don't know if they're going to do that, but a lot of organizations that are holding virtual conferences, because they're being broadcast anyway, they're recording them. And it may be that certain sessions would be available after the fact for little or nothing.
Uh-huh. It just, because seriously, you wouldn't want to watch everything that they're doing, because but there might be some that are very pertinent to what, we could pick up information about. So that was just my thought.
Okay. Any other
And we can have
comments or
coffee
questions
wine
associated
or something while
with the
we're
general
there.
manager's report? Moving on to item 11E, director's reports and follow-up reports of meetings and conferences attended. Director Nichols.
I just have one thing. If Mr. Segedie is right, I took a hike that I'd never been on before on Tuesday. So I took a video and just wanted to share it. Got to follow in Mr. Huffer's footsteps here. He was always sharing. So this was the video that I took on Tuesday.
Are we supposed to guess
Wait
where?
a second. Wait a second. This is Costco.
Nobody recognizes that?
Wait, I'm going Langley? Eastern Sierras?
Glacier National Park.
Oh, Glacier. Oh, God.
It was my first time there and absolutely phenomenal. I went to hike to see an iceberg. Not an iceberg, what do they call them? A glacier. Glacier. And it was a 12-mile hike with about a 2,000-foot elevation gain and loss. And I'm still feeling it.
That's awesome.
But it's
That's
an
great, though.
incredible, incredible place to go visit.
You actually see a glacier?
Yes.
You can check out some of the
I-
ice.
I
read
couldn't-
Someplace that Finland or someplace like that, they sell bottled glacier water for some outrageous price.
Oh, no, I didn't. I have a picture of it. I didn't share that part. But the hike was just to an overlook. And it was about another, I don't know, 600 or 800 feet below you. And I wasn't going to climb down there. But it was a lot of fun. Certainly recommend it if you're looking for a place to go. Or if Utah gets boring, Tom.
That's my favorite part.
Is it?
Yeah, I've been there about 4 times.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I love that part.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mm-hmm. Any other? Director Puffer.
Oh, really? Why? Take me a second. Well, the only real meeting that I attended was Tom's massively attended meeting over at Lang Ranch Neighborhood Park. But 2 of you did a fine job and at least we had someone there. But thank you for doing that. A couple of park-related activities. Been participating several weekends with the safe passage meal or food giveaway over at Canal Creek Condos. And it's amazing. Tim estimated last weekend that something like $25,000 worth of food being donated to families, and they come by with their wagons and their carts, and they get bags of potatoes and fresh vegetables and hot lunches, and it's an amazing program. I did discover, though, that I made the mistake of volunteering to take one of the carts, and the lady that I was helping, of course, was at the very furthest end of the complex,
Oh,
so
yeah.
I won't
Oh,
make
my.
that mistake again. So, and then also park-related, we're doing the final day of tax returns at the Global Center next Wednesday. That's the last of those programs until next winter sometime. So other than that, not a whole lot going on.
Okay. Director Chesworth, way back there.
Yes, I don't know, I see she's got an ant colony.
Yeah, they're coming out.
What did you say?
An ant colony, there's a bunch of ants.
Ants.
On my
It's
table.
been the last month or two.
So anyway, I went to the board meeting on Zoom for the Stagecoach Inn, and they're actively planning their holiday Christmas open house. They're gonna do it for 4 nights, and it'll be all outside. So they're excited about that. The Chumash has started a Zoom lecture series. They've had a lecture series for quite some time that they've done in person. So now they're doing it on Zoom. I don't know how many people were there, but I enjoyed it very much. So they're both trying to get some, they're both trying to manage. They're not money. We had a volunteer training over at the Stagecoach Inn. There's still people wanting to be involved. I guess that's it.
Okay. I attended that same Lang Ranch community neighborhood meeting. And just ironically, I was chair when that park was dedicated. And as was Congressman Brad Sherman. And little trivia thing, Brad Sherman said, as he always did, I'm Brad Sherman from Sherman Oaks, and I get to introduce George Lang from Lang Ranch. But anyway, and I did pose a question to a couple of women who were in attendance about the use that the picnic area there got under the gazebo. And they said, before COVID, very, very popular. So we know that Lang Ranch Neighborhood Park is well used. And I also attended the Santa Monica Mountain Conservancy Zoom meeting. That concludes my report. Anybody else? Let's go on to 12, requests for status reports and items for subsequent agendas. Item 13, items from the public. We have any public, Mark? No public. Item 14, executive closed session. No need for closed session this evening. So with that, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Well, let